Hello, hello, hello. It's Sunday. I'm CJ and I'm a little bit of a broken CJ. I was leaving my partner's house on Monday and the floor was slippy and I decided that I would give gravity a chance. So I've sprained my shoulder slightly and it's fine. I'm going for the give me sprain but make it fashion. So yes, that is what is going on here. I think medical transition is actually the thing I'm going to talk about this week. I haven't covered a lot of that. I haven't talked about my own personal transition. I understand that talking about dysphoria is one of those things that people get very, very uncomfortable about. And I get that that is something that is a challenge for people. I also think that dysphoria is more and less than we think it is. But I'm not saying that you have to have dysphoria to be trans. I'm not saying anything about what your dysphoria may or may not be like. I'm solely talking about me. So I went to my GP and I said, hey, I think I might be trans. And my doctor was like, I don't know what to do with you. And I was like, fair. I don't know what to do with me either. Because at this point I was 28 years old. 28 years old? Yeah, 28 years old. Doesn't fit a lot of the narratives, you know. And sure, looking back, I feel like I feel like one of the things about being trans is that you look back and you're like, oh, that was so much more trans than originally intended. You know, the stories people have of things that I did and ways of behaving and, you know, my life in general. When I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, it was kind of only ever going one place. But at the time, it was not like the narrative likes to describe it. I felt challenged in my body, but I felt a million other things at the same time, and none of it, dysphoria wasn't a thing that I had a name for. Discomfort I had a name for. I knew I was uncomfortable. I also kind of thought that that was just how I was supposed to feel in my body. And it took until I think I really got to the point where I had like good friends and people that I could talk to, where I was like, oh shit, like this isn't something that everybody has to go through all of the time. Like it is possible to feel comfortable in your own body, and that doesn't mean like, oh, you have to love yourself. I mean, it's great if you love yourself, and I hope you love yourself, but that doesn't have to be something that you worry about. But you should be able to like live with yourself and sleep with yourself and be present in your own skin. And I wasn't, and I didn't, and I went to the doctors and I was 28 and I was like, shit, you know, this is fucked up. And my doctor was like, yeah, sounds terrible. I'm gonna refer you because I don't know what to do with you. So let's do that. And I was like, oh, okay. And then nothing happened for 2 years, which, you know, that's the side of medical transition in the UK right now, the reality of it that's horrendous. I started my testosterone journey, my medicalization journey, on the 28th of October, 2016, which means that I have been on T for 2.5 years until I stopped being on T last month. And the reason that I've stopped being on T and the reason that I've stopped like medically transitioning, ooh, really hard to do bunny ears when you've only got one hand. The reason that I've stopped medically transitioning is because I'm actually going through fertility treatment. I would like to see if there's an option of me potentially having a child who's biologically related to me. I am 33 years old, and so now is a good time, perhaps the only time in my life I'm going to be able to do this and have there be much of a viability. So that is what I'm going through at the minute, which is weird because it's obviously made me like address my testosterone journey a little bit more. There were things about being on testosterone that I loved. I feel like we talk about those a lot. Deeper voice, loved it. Facial hair, brilliant. Like body hair, as someone who's never been particularly hairy, I have a chestnut now that I really love. And that is something that I just had never considered would make me feel as good as it makes me feel. There was also downstairs growth, which I was not necessarily expecting. And it's one of those things that I feel like I really had to Google to find out more about. You know, the other things that also came with it, you know, I kind of went through the menopause. And going through menopause and like puberty at the same time is one of those things where I've just never been so hot and sweaty and angry and horny and hungry all at the same time. It was genuinely like the least civil war breaking out inside my body. So that was real frustrating. You know, people told me that I'd be angry a lot. I'm not really an angry person. So that never really kicked in. I did have spikes of kind of temper and things like that. Worst of all, I think it was that I could notice when I was getting into troughs. I could physically feel that like stuff wasn't cool. And that was weird. It was also kind of amazing because I've never had the kind of relationship with my body where that would be something that I would pick up on and pay attention to. So that felt kind of glorious because I was like, hey, I'm understanding what is happening. You know, I kind of want to talk about the testosterone thing. I'm not saying that anybody else's experiences are wrong. And I'm not saying that they didn't feel what they felt. Because why would I do that? But their experiences were not my experiences. I had so much overwhelming anxiety about testosterone and whether or not it was a thing that I should do and whether or not it felt right and that my first injection of testosterone just felt like something else to be worried about. And then I had injections of testosterone that didn't go well. I'd been going to a nurse. It was never something that I didn't dread. To get my testosterone was always difficult. To get my nurse appointment was always difficult. I'd had it when nurses had messed up the testosterone injections. One of the things that can happen is if the needle doesn't go into your body properly, you end up with like a kind of lump of testosterone because it's quite a thick substance and it really needs to go into the muscle. And mine didn't, and so it just left me with like a really odd, painful kind of testosterone blister, I guess. So testosterone isn't ever something that I've been able to feel just like unmitigated joy over. I've also always felt really medicalized. My doctors at the moment, my GP surgery doesn't have a resident nurse, which has meant for the past few shots I've been going to the hospital to have my shots. And my relationship with hospitals is not great. Not least because I have a mother who has been in and out of hospital with tests and things like that for the past 2 years. My parents are elderly. My relationship with hospitals is very much tied in with the ideas of, you know, death and sadness and mortality. And the idea of going to get my testosterone from somewhere like that gave me this kind of complex in my head that didn't feel like unbridled joy. And it was only through talking to other trans guys that I really felt like, oh, I'm not actually by myself in thinking that. Which isn't the same as me saying that it's wrong. Like, I don't think that me going on testosterone was a bad thing to do. If you have this idea that it's going to be the best thing ever, and it might be. It may be the best thing ever for you to be on testosterone, and the minute you have it, everything in your body feels alive and aligned, and I hope so badly that that is the experience that you have on testosterone, if you choose to go on testosterone. If you choose to go on testosterone and that's not your experience, that's also okay too. There's a million and one reasons why being on testosterone might feel a little bit fraught and a little bit tense, and that's okay. So yeah, so I think it's okay to feel troubled and confused. And also because you're going through puberty, and I gotta tell you, I scarcely survived puberty the first time. The second time was torture, and I'm a little trepidatious about what the third time is going to be like, because it's just a lot of confusion, really. So yeah, and of course it's weird now because I just kind of gotten used to what my body was doing and knowing all of that kind of thing, and now I'm not on testosterone anymore. And I'm still the same person in my head, and now I'm going through a different kind of newness. And I'm still non-binary, and I still identify as being transmasculine, and I still see myself as being transmasculine. And I'm nervous. You know, this is very new for me. And that kind of relationship with my body and how my body fits in the world is now going to be changed again. And I don't know what that holds for me or what that means. I guess it's a really good job I make YouTube videos, because then at least I can talk to you guys about it. So yeah, tell me about your take on medical transition. How do you feel about it? Are you there? Do you want to be? And I will talk to you next week.